So Game Freak and TPC has been dropping surprise raid events on us since Pokemon Day. First it was that surprise drop of the Pikachu raid, then of course on Pokemon Day we got Walking Awake and Iron Leaves, and now we have the 7-star Decidueye event scheduled for March 17th and then returning on March 24th. Now with that first date being just a week away, I thought I'd put out a video going over some viable counters and a little overview of the possible sets this Decidueye may be running for this raid. Decidueye will be rocking a Flying Terra type for this event, and more than likely is going to have its hidden ability Long Reach, which will make contact abilities like Flame Body, Static, Poison Point, etc. not work, which ultimately is not too much of a problem to be honest, since most people don't run these abilities in raids anyways. Now Decidueye has pretty decent offensive stats with 107 in attack and 100 in special attack. Its defenses however are a little bit worse at 75 in defense and 100 in special defense, so physical attackers are likely going to see more use in this raid. Now as for potential movesets, Decidueye could run either physical or special sets since both its offensive stats are so close, and it gets access to Nasty Plot and Swords Dance. However, I personally think it's going to be a physical set because its attack stat is the higher stat of the two, and it has a better physical move pool than it does a special move pool. So for its moves, I'm predicting it to have Brave Bird, Pluck, or Acrobatics, which are all dangerous moves in their own regard. Then for grass coverage, it's probably going to have Leaf Blade most likely, but it also does get access to Seed Bomb, so that could be a thing, but more than likely it's going to have Leaf Blade. Now for its ghost coverage, again, it's most likely going to have Spirit Shackle, but there have been a lot of instances where Pokemon in these raids did not get their signature move, so Shadow Claw is a potential option here as well, which actually might be a little bit worse than Spirit Shackle because it has that increased crit chance, plus it'll get the stab, so hopefully it has Spirit Shackle over Shadow Claw. Then finally for its attacking moves, I think it's probably going to have Knockoff or Sucker Punch, and that's just to make our lives just that little bit harder. And for its additional moves, it's likely going to have just setup moves here, so I can see it having something like Swords Dance, Double Team, Tailwind, and or Feather Dance. Now what I'm expecting this thing to do is set up Tailwind on turn 0, then pop either a Swords Dance or a Double Team. Now assuming Brave Bird is its flying move, that will give Decidueye a stab, 120 base power attack to hit us with using that +2 from a possible Swords Dance. Then on top of that, it has Leaf Blade, which also gets stab and has a high crit chance, Spirit Shackle, which gets stab as well from its ghost typing, or even worse, a Shadow Claw, which would basically be like a ghost type Leaf Blade for Decidueye. Then finally is that Knockoff that I think is going to have just to get rid of our items, but it's also just as likely that it's going to have Sucker Punch, which if paired with Swords Dance gives it a priority move to use with a +2 in its attack stat, so that is potentially going to be OHKOing some people, or at least doing massive damage to people. So yeah, if you're tired of hearing about all the possible ways that Decidueye can just utterly wipe us from the Matrix, let's go ahead and finally take a look at some of these counters that I put together. Now even though I said physical attackers are going to be more useful in this raid just due to Decidueye's lower defense stat, I still think one of the best counters for this raid is going to be Miraidon. It has a disgusting special attack and speed stats of 135, 100 in its defense, and 115 in its special defense. It can set up the terrain, boosting its stab, super effective attacks, and has the utility moves to debuff Decidueye nicely. It's also great because I'm sure most people have access to the electric Terra type Miraidon that you can catch in Area 0, so putting this together shouldn't be too difficult for a lot of people. For this set, we'll be running Electro Drift, Parabolic Charge, Taunt, and Metal Sound, with a modest nature, 252 EVs in special attack and speed, and holding an expert belt for that little bit of extra damage. With this set, you'll likely want to start the battle with a Taunt just to prevent Decidueye from using whatever other status moves it may have. Then on the next turn, follow up with a Metal Sound to lower its spit off by 2 stages. After that, you'll want to spam Parabolic Charge for heals and damage until you can Terra. Once Terra'd, you will want to start letting off those Electro Drifts using Parabolic Charge to heal when and where needed. Now Miraidon is a great counter for this raid because at a level 100 with 252 speed EVs, it should still outspeed Decidueye even in Tailwind, so long as Decidueye doesn't have a speed boosting nature. And then on top of that, there is literally nothing Decidueye has that can hit Miraidon for super effective damage, with Miraidon resisting 2 of Decidueye's stab types and taking neutral damage from its third. Now, as for the physical attackers, which I think are going to be more useful, we'll start off with what I think is going to be probably the best physical attacking set and the one that most people are going to go to for this raid, Iron Hands. Honestly, I'm a little bit conflicted on Iron Hands because on one hand, no pun intended, on one hand, it has the potential to deal massive damage, but then on the other hand, it could end up just being setup food for Decidueye. But before I explain the pros and cons of Iron Hands, let's take a look at its actual set. So for this set, we will of course be running a Terra Electric 252 HP in attack with an Adamant nature and rocking Drain Punch, Wild Charge, Thunder Punch, and Belly Drum while holding a Citrus Berry. Now pretty obviously, you'll want to pop your Belly Drum first turn, proccing your berry, then use Drain Punch to heal where needed, and Thunder Punch for stab super effective damage. Once you can Terra, Wild Charge is going to be your go-to option for a huge amount of damage. However, here is where the cons of Iron Hands comes in for this raid. If Decidueye ends up setting up Tailwind and a Swords Dance on turn 0, and then Iron Hands sets up a Belly Drum right after it, is a potential 2-hit KO on Iron Hands with a Brave Bird even after the HP gained back from the Citrus Berry. But I do think this set is still worth noting just simply for the massive amounts of damage that is possible with it. And honestly, Iron Hands is probably going to work best if you have a team of friends to coordinate with, because then you can have your teammates buff or debuff as needed to allow Iron Hands to actually set up. Now for our next Pokemon, it's kind of another iffy situation based solely on Decidueye's move pool and its AI for this battle. For this one, we'll be utilizing an Ice Terra Baxcalibur. This will be running 252 in attack and defense, holding a Shell Bell, Thermal Exchange for its ability, and Icicle Crash, Breaking Swipe, Icy Wind, and Swords Dance for its moveset. Now for Baxcalibur, Icicle Crash is going to be your main damage dealing move. Breaking Swipe is then there to drop Decidueye's attack, Icy Wind to drop its speed stat, and then Swords Dance of course to buff your own attack. Now the reason I say Baxcalibur is a little bit iffy is because Decidueye does get access to both a low kick and low sweep, two fighting moves that will hit Baxcalibur for super effective damage. However, I don't think Decidueye will be running either of those moves because we've seen with past 7-star raids that the raid Pokemon don't always have every single coverage move for their counters. For example, Greninja didn't run Trailblaze or Grass Knot even though Gastrodon and Clodsire were the very obvious and popular counters. Pikachu also didn't run Grass Knot, and Gastrodon and Clodsire were possible counters for those as well, and Cinderace didn't run Soccer Punch to counter any possible Psychic types. So for that reason, I don't think Decidueye is going to be running any fighting moves. However, if it does though, Baxcalibur may not be the greatest pick here, but luckily I still have more counters to get through. Now for our last 3 Pokemon, we have 3 pure electric types, starting with Eelektross. Now Eelektross is a Pokemon many people end up sleeping on, but it's actually generally a pretty good Pokemon, and I think it'll make a good counter for this raid. This set will be physical with 252 in attack and defense, a Brave Nature to boost our defense, and a Shell Bell for the heals. We'll be running Wild Charge, Terra Blast, Thunder Punch, and Coil. Now since Eelektross doesn't get any healing moves, we're going to be relying on Shell Bell and Heal Cheers with this set, but luckily with its pure electric typing, Eelektross will resist any flying moves from Decidueye, Brave Bird being the one that we want to resist the most. Now for the strategy for this set, I'd advise getting up at least 2 coils, which will boost attack, defense, and accuracy. Then after that, you're going to want to start going for damage with Thunder Punch or Wild Charges if you think you can manage the recoil. Next, we have Luxray, who will be rocking Intimidate, holding a Shell Bell with 252 in HP and attack, and this time with an Impish nature just to boost that defense stat a little bit more. For the move pool, we'll be running Wild Charge, Terra Blast, Howl, and Baby Doll Eyes. Now, the great thing about Luxray is that Intimidate will instantly proc at the beginning of the battle, bringing Decidueye down to a -1. So even if it does use Sword Dance on turn 0, it will still only be at a +1 instead of a +2. And then since Baby Doll Eyes is a priority move, you can use it on the first turn to bring Decidueye back down to a neutral attack stat before it can even get off any damaging moves. Then you have Howl to boost your attack stat and possibly your teammates. I'm not actually entirely sure how Howl works in Terra raids, but normally it boosts you and your teammates' attack by 1 stage, but I know that a lot of teammate boosting moves or abilities that affect your teammates don't seem to work in Terra raids as often, so Howl could just affect yourself or it could affect you and your teammates. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but test it out and let me know. Then after that, you have Wild Charge for damage pre-Terra. Then once you're able to Terra, you can use Terra Blast for stab, super effective non-recoil damage. Now since all of the physical attacking electric counters are out of the way, I just want to mention that for any of the ones that I have Wild Charge on, you can obviously switch that out for another physical electric attack. I just went with Wild Charge because it's quite literally the only physical electric attack we have with a base power higher than 75. Like Game Freak, what are you doing? Give us some better physical electric attacks, bro. Come on. We're struggling out here. Anyways, on to our final counter, Bellibolt. Now Bellibolt is going to be more of a support counter for this raid, so don't expect to be soloing the Decidueye offline with this set. For this set, we're going to be rocking a very defensive boy with 252 in defense and special attack, a modest nature, or even a brave nature. I'll probably be going with a modest nature just for that little extra oomph in my T-bolts, but you could also work with a brave nature, which should boost your defense stat as well, so it's really up to you with this one. He'll of course be holding a Shell Bell and running Thunderbolt, Chilling Water, Parabolic Charge, and Acid Spray. And clearly, as mentioned, this set will be more about debuffing the Decidueye and keeping its stats as low as possible. We have Thunderbolt just for some decent stab super effective damage, then we have Chilling Water to reduce Decidueye's attack stat, Parabolic Charge for stab super effective damage while also healing ourselves, and then finally we have Acid Spray to reduce Decidueye's special defense by 2. Now this set is actually pretty solid because the stat drops from Acid Spray and Chilling Water will proc even with Decidueye shield up, since secondary effects still work through the shield. It's only explicitly status moves that don't work against shielded Terramons. And then add in Bellibolt's decent bulk and resistance to flying type moves. Bird, I'm looking at you. And I think this set would do pretty well on a team with Iron Hands and or even Miraidon. For example, Miraidon would set up the terrain for Iron Hands and Bellibolt. Bellibolt can run support with Chilling Water, Acid Spray, and Heal Shears, and then Iron Hands and Miraidon together can just sweep Decidueye from both offensive sides. And then for that fourth member, you could probably even add in like a Luxray or something with Intimidate to keep lowering that physical attack of Decidueye. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, folks. So if you found this video useful, if you think any of these sets are gonna be good, or if you plan on using any of them, drop a like, consider subscribing because I'm gonna be putting out more of these counter videos for Terra raids for as long as they're doing the 7-star raids. Leave a comment down below, let me know, what you think of these sets, what sets you think are maybe better, or what you're gonna use for these raids. And yeah, I'm gonna hop off of this one. Before I go, if you're still here, thank you very much. Second, consider following me on TikTok because I post shortened versions of these counters on there, and I do some other Pokemon discussion and rank and rating videos and just random Pokemon stuff out there. I post a lot of the shorts that I post on here, I post on there, but they're usually longer because YouTube only lets you put 60-second shorts on here, whereas TikTok you can put like, I don't even know, over 2 minutes of video. So yeah, if you enjoyed anything in this video, I'm rambling at this point because I'm totally off script, but yeah, if you enjoyed anything in this video, slap a like, comment, subscribe because I have more coming, and consider following me on TikTok because I post on there much more frequently than I post on YouTube. And I will catch you guys later.